Hi guys, welcome back to the Business and Remote Work podcast brought to you by Wishup. I'm your host Crispino, and today we're joined by one of our favorite clients at Wishup, Jason Ellinger. Jason is a professional filmmaker helping non-profit organizations achieve their goals through the power of video. So welcome to the show, Jason.
Thank you for having me here. Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on. So how long has it been, Jason, that you've been working with Wishup?
Man, it's probably been about a year. Almost a year, I think.
Almost a year.
Up on a year, yeah.
That is a long time.
Yeah, there was a lot of tasks that were getting undone. There's a lot of help that I needed, but I wasn't quite ready for that next employee at the time. Or the next employee and a VA came probably about the same time. So started expanding beyond my capabilities coming out of the pandemic again. So it was time to expand.
That's amazing. Yeah, I've spoken to Sid, and he said that he loves working with you, and you made him feel like a family member at Beard and Bowler. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you know what? That's one of the tips that I got when I was bringing them on. Just like make them feel a part of the team, make them feel like they're one of the guys. So all the team meetings he's at, we even invited him to the Christmas party. So he joined. It was like 6 p.m. Eastern. So maybe 6 p.m. So he joined us probably like 4 in the morning. He's just like asleep. Like, I'm so happy to be here. It was good to have him. He was the life of the party. We'll say that.
Awesome. Well, it's amazing to have clients like you on board. So that's what keeps us motivated and, wanting to excel. And I'm sure it motivates Siddharth as well to do the job that he does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So, Jason, to begin with, can you start off by telling us a bit about yourself, your background, and your organization, Beard and Bowler?
Yeah, Beard and Bowler, commercial filmmaker. We help nonprofits raise funds and awareness through the power of storytelling via video. And we just kind of market to the nonprofit audience. And in doing that, it kind of attracts just the level and the quality of our work kind of attracts the right type of for-profit client. So like we have an agency now, and they represent a big pharma company, but it's not like one that's dealing with a lot of opioids. They're the anti-opioid, so they have a nerve blocker, and it's just like it kind of matches our ethos still, even in the corporate arena. So yes, those are the types of people that we work with, nonprofit and particular about our for-profit clients that we take on. But we do work in partnership with both. And my background, I started a video company in 2007, and just in time for that recession then. And I launched with what was then considered a luxury item, just in time for that recession. So that was a fun few years to navigate. But fast forward, I was getting married. I needed a bit more stability, maybe some benefits, because those are hard to come by when you're self-employed. And I took on a day job with the news, and I was a hard news photojournalist. So I saw a lot of the underbelly of New Jersey, New York, Long Island. And every day I had the 4 a.m. to noon shift. So every day it was fires, shootings, stabbings, murders. And I was like, what can I do that's going to make a difference in the world? And I guess long story short is that we found that within the walls of nonprofits, that we could tell that story, particularly the ones that are doing galas or events raising like 6 figures or more. Those were a good people for us to work with because they could cost justify it with the event expense, but then also make their investment back. They stood a really good chance of making their investment back or doubling it that night because they already have the money in the room. If they're touched by a video, they may be able to dig deeper and then continue to use it for a fundraising tool with their board, with their director of development. That's the big win for us, making sure that they're successful and they get like a big ROI on their investment in video.
Is that what you put up in your LinkedIn status? I read it over there. We hit our revenue goal within 3 minutes of showing your video.
Yes.
Was that one of these events?
That was on one of these events. That was a big hospital in Connecticut, and they had 1,000 of Connecticut's most well-to-do people, and they did a gala, and this was pre-COVID, and they did probably I didn't find this out till like a few months later. I didn't even think to ask, but I was like, wait, how did it go? How long did it take? Did you hit your revenue goal? I knew that, but she's like, legit 3 minutes after the end of the video,
wow,
we hit the goal, and then we just exceeded it the rest of the night. And that was one example. Another one went from, they were raising 500-600 K in one night, and they went up to 1.1 million the following year. They broke records, got an article written about them. They were in the newspaper when they had the video that we produced for them that night. And it really does make a difference. We had 5 people. It was like 11-ish minutes long. I'm like, no one's going to watch this short film, basically. And after each person's section was done talking about how this organization had helped them through their different programs, they went and they silently stood up on the stage. So after the video ended with that power statement faded out to logo, house lights faded up, all 5 of the people you just went on this emotional journey with were standing there in front of the audience. And it was like Chill City, right? Oh. And those are the kind of things, like, and there wasn't even like, come on down, give $10. It was just like, they were silent. They appeared, and it was just, that's all you needed. You really don't need much more when you move somebody to the emotional point that they need to open up, to give, to invest, to buy. It's people give with their hearts. They buy with their hearts, and then post-rationalize later with their heads. So that was the trick, man. That really worked well.
Yeah. So how do you come up with these videos, Jason? Like, where do you get the inspiration or the ideas or the creativity to come up with these inspiring videos that actually can resonate with the kind of audience that you want to touch?
Yeah, it's we first get on a pre-production or discovery call with the client, and a lot of times, especially in nonprofits, they're like, we want this, and it needs to be this long, and it needs to be this many board members, and this, that, and the other. And we say, well, let's ask you some questions first. What's the goal? What would be the win for the video? Is it to fundraise, or is it to attract new board members? Because if it's to attract new board members, okay, we'll talk to some board members. But if it's the fundraise, tell us a story of how you helped someone get from point A to point B. And so we'll go through things like that, and then we'll ask some more questions like, who's the target audience? Those are all things that are relevant. And just like if you go to a doctor, you're not going to be like, yeah, I need some of this stuff over here. You write me some stronger Tylenol or whatever. Like, you don't go to the doctor and say that. You go to the doctor, and you tell him your ailments, you tell him what's wrong, and he says, let me make a recommendation based upon what I heard, after he asks some follow-up questions. So I think that's the main difference between us and GWCs. We call them guys with cameras who just, show up and like, what do you want me to shoot? Like, you got some questions for me? Like, no, we handle all of that, all of the pre-production. We tell you who to find. And then a lot of it doesn't change. A lot of the questions, if I had 10 questions to ask every person this year, I would get 10 completely different stories from everybody. It's just a matter of how you pull it out. Most of our talent is real people. So we don't script things. We don't say this or say this. And, maybe when there's an authority voice in the video, we'll say, oh, could you replace this word with the parent organization's name? Like, maybe that's like is the extent of our coaching, just so they're on brand, right? But like everything else is just like, from my news background, asking the same question 6 different times till it hits the story element that you need to tell a successful story. So there's no real crafting, so to speak. It's just, how do we make this person comfortable enough to tell us the true story, and then put that in the right order that's going to hold the tension to the end and hold the audience's gaze until the end. So that's yeah.
All right, awesome. So how did you get into nonprofits in particular? I think that's like the focus area for your company. So why only nonprofits?
It's always important to pick a niche, especially in film. I used to be like, someone would be like, oh, who do you want to work for? Who do you want to do work for? And I'd be like, people that need video. I don't know. And that was my answer. And then I met with a sales guy and a sales trainer, and he's like, you know who you could introduce me to? I want to be introduced to business owners who own their own business, have 50 or more employees, and drive a nice car. I will never forget who he was looking for to this day because of how specific he was. And I thought of 2 people right off the bat, and I'm like, wait, one has 50, but they rent. They don't own the buildings. Is that okay? And like I realized, like the Jedi mind trick he just did on me at work. Like he doesn't care. You know, it's like it's someone that could hire him, right?
Yeah.
So when you niche down, A, people remember it better. B, it becomes your specialty. And now we specialize in those mission moments right before the big ask at nonprofit galas. But C, the real reason is those are the stories that we want to tell. Selfishly, like I left the news to tell the stories that were actually going to make an impact in the world, that somebody could watch and be inspired by, that somebody could be changed by. And now, like, you know, working with nonprofits from 4 years ago, I'll some of those people leave and go to other nonprofits and remember us and call us up and like, I remember I used to like the organization I worked for when I signed up to work there, and I saw your piece at a gala, and that's when I fell in love with the organization because I understood the mission. And these were employees that had worked there and sacrificed their life and salary for this move. It didn't become clear until they saw a story of impact in the proper order, with the right emotion, with the right pauses. Like, you know, we all have stories, but not every one of us knows how to like set it up to hold a room's attention, right? Like I even struggle with that. I can do that in editing, but like it's hard, right? So there's a structure to it, and if we apply that structure right, we can not only help the nonprofits raise more money, but we can help them get known, get awareness, get they don't have branding. It's frowned upon for them to really market. Like you give $1, they should give $1 to the homeless. That's what we all think, right? But like, how is every other company successful? How's Wishup? How much marketing dollars have you put into this company to make it success? I found you on an IG ad, right? Like, and if you weren't advertising, you know, the companies just roll over and die. So like that's why, like they need this, and they need someone to tell them it's okay. It's okay to market. It's okay to tell the stories of impact.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of your videos, and yes, even I was touched by it. So I must say the storytelling element is really relevant, or it's really relevant over there in the videos that you make. So how did you get the knack of storytelling? Like, were you always a storyteller or a good salesperson? I believe storytelling also, you need to be good at sales for it, or you need to be a good narrator for it. So what skills did you have to develop to become a good storyteller?
It was a process. It was a long process from failure, learning from failure mainly. And they just say, get out there and fail fast. And that's the difference between, you know, Abraham Lincoln, all these great people, and Steve Jobs. Like they fail, and they fail fast, they fail forward, but they keep going. And most people give up too soon, right? So I think it's the same with storytelling. When I started in 2007, I was great at telling a story visually. I knew how to do it. I mean, I wasn't great. I grew into that myself. Like, because from the movies I watched, some of my favorite movies were like Aliens and Predator, and like they did not reveal the full breadth of the monster or the alien until the very end. And I was like, I want to do that with my videos, right? Like, I don't want to reveal the character's face until the end, and that kind of inspired that. And then when I worked for the news, it was totally backwards. They're like, what are you doing? You gotta put those flames up front. I want to see the police cars and the shot up vehicle up front. Like, we gotta hold people's attention, and it's a 60-second piece. And I'm like, all right, it's a little different, but I learned from that too. And so now we start with the cold open. Between that and Gary Vee, you start with the cold open, you hook them, and then you bring them along on that journey, right? So that was my expertise in storytelling, telling a story visually. And somebody's walking here, they're sitting here, they're pondering, they're getting up, they're taking action next, right? That was my area of expertise. My business partner, I call him my story architect here. He is the one that really crafts the story with words. So when you have an interview like this one where we'll talk for 45 minutes, an hour, you'll have 100, you may have like 300 pages of transcript by the time you're done with that. Where do you start with that? You know, how do you put that in a proper order in 3 minutes to effectively tell a story? So we read a lot of books too. And one of them, Donald Miller's Story Brand, was a big influence too. Putting your client as a hero. We use that same sort of structure. And then just cobbling together different sources we've kind of stumbled into the story formula of, that Pixar uses, Disney Pixar, and they are masters at this, right? There are 7 elements to every successful Hollywood movie, and if they deviate from that, it's not a successful movie. I'll just say that.
Oh, is it?
Right? But it works for TV shows too. And there's one overarching for the whole movie or show, but then you'll look, every single scene has that same introduce a problem. Oh no, how are we going to solve this? It's not wrapped up to the end. Like if you ever watch a show where they wrap up in the middle, guess what? Changing the show, right? Like
that's it. Yeah.
Hold that tension to the end. So there's a specific formula they used. We just figured out how to reverse engineer it and put it with real people, and then take those questions and engineer them to get each of those elements that you see in a Hollywood movie in an actual real person interview to get the story out, extract the elements that we need, and then we'll put them in order later when we're sifting through 300 pages of transcripts, you know. Yeah. So that's a long story, but a lot of different sources.
Amazing. Yeah, it's so interesting for me to learn, actually. I had kind of a curveball question for you. So if, say, we had to prepare a video as such for Wishup, what would be the story that we could talk about?
That's a great question that requires follow-up questions. So I would ask you first, what would be the goal of said video?
Say, getting more clients?
Yes, of course.
Getting more sign-ups, clients just like yourself?
And then secondly, who is your target audience?
American entrepreneurs from the age 30 to 45.
So I think you just answered your own question. We could do like a commercial and be like, see a guy with a laptop. I'm stressed. I'm overwhelmed. I wish somebody was here to help me with my business. Like you could do the cheesy route. Which is cool and it would be fun to produce and it would be nice. But like at this point, that is white noise and authenticity rules. So what I would recommend is finding that exact profile that you just talked about and putting them in an interview situation and then seeing what their experience is. Because that person's going to have the same problems that I, as an entrepreneur, have, who may be looking for help or may not even know I need help, which I didn't know I needed until like I saw an ad and I started thinking about it, right? And like, you know, those everyday tasks that you struggle with, you know, I was really hung up on those, and there were certain things that were just not my strength, but I wasn't ready for that full-time employee to bring on. And like, where do you even start with interviewing and vetting? And I've been on Indeed for so long, and it's a struggle, right? Like,
it is.
I'm feeling that pain because I've been there. So you want to interview somebody who looks and sounds like your ideal prospect. So if you have one of those that is a client already for profit, I tell them, find somebody who's your ideal client already from within your ranks, who's had a good experience. We'll sit down and we'll talk with them, but not like, it's not going to be like, oh, tell us about your experience with Wishup. It's going to be, tell us your story. Tell us how you started this business, the blood, sweat, and tears that you put in it. Now tell me about the struggles that you've had. They are the hero of the story. They have the same struggles that your target audience is going to have. And then who do they look to for a solution to this? Their Yoda, their Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? Their guide here was Wishup. And that's how we position it. The hero, you're just hearing a story of somebody who looks and sounds like you, but surprise, there's a surprise guide in there that really helped them to where they wanted to be, where they needed to be. So that's how I would position it. If we were going to do a piece for Wishup, find your ideal client, the one you want more of, talk to him, and then create a piece centered around his story with a little bit of authority sprinkled in from you guys. And then most businesses say, well, we actually have 3 targets, 3 verticals, at least, right? Like, okay, who's your next one? Let's talk about them. Guess what? That's a completely different video that's going to target a completely different, and maybe in a completely different set of ad spend demographics that you're going to put that in, right? So
absolutely,
that's whenever we work with corporate, it's always in retainer, because they always have like more than one target audience that they're trying to, residential, commercial, you know, like, so that's my high level, what I would go over on a discovery call with you. And then
amazing. Yeah. I think I should take this up with Nilesh. You could definitely consider making a video for Wishup as well, for sure.
Yeah, would love that, dude.
Awesome. So, Jason, what's the biggest challenge that you faced while creating a video for a client?
Biggest challenge. I think the biggest challenges are always in the beginning, where there's that education curve, because they always want to do with what they know. They always want to go with what they know. So, I had somebody email me the other day, a nonprofit, and they put out an RFP. They wanted to interview 27 board members. And I'm like, why? Do you want more board members? What's the goal here? Are you trying to attract more board members? What are you trying to do here? And no, so the biggest hurdle is that education and getting them to trust us in our process in the first call. And it's look, no, we're not going to talk to all 20 or 30 of your board members, because I hate to say this, but nobody cares. I know it's your 30th. I know it's your 40th. I know it's your 75th anniversary. Guess what? Nobody cares. You know who cares? Your board.
Yeah.
The people who already support you. And if you're trying to reach somebody who doesn't, let's tell a story of impact, whether in nonprofit or in for-profit. Like, how did you change your client's life, the person you serve, their life, nonprofit, corporation? How did you make a difference in your customer's life? Show me that story of impact on both sides. And that education, it's usually an hour-long talk. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But that's usually the biggest challenge, is just getting people out of their comfort zone. And I know you've done the scripted stuff before, and it might have worked 20 years ago, but we're hit with 4, 8, 10,000 pieces of advertising and marketing a day, down to your coffee mug or your Starbucks mug, all.
Absolutely.
So what are you going to do to stand out in the white noise? Tell a story like everybody else? Where BS meters are through the roofs, right? So we have to tell something that's going to resonate with people, that's going to be authentic, and that's real people's story. And that's sometimes we'll even break the fourth wall and show the whole crew, to show hey, this is a real person sitting in front of a real camera crew. We didn't make this up. There's no script here, We go to great lengths to make sure that it's authentic as possible, down to leaving ums and uhs in the video for certain segments. A lot of those are chopped out to make people sound confident. Sometimes you want that long pause where people are like, oh, I never really thought about it that way, So just whatever we could do to make it authentic as possible.
Cool. So that's your challenge with the client. How was it working through the pandemic for you? Did you face any challenges working through the pandemic and the recession, which is currently in America?
Oh yeah, pandemic was rough. It was just a lot of our stuff was based around live events, and live events went away. So we kind of had to pivot. Everybody did virtual, sending crew for even a few brave companies who wanted to do it, sending crew. You had to make sure your crew was okay with it. But innovation was born out of that. One, because I had a big client, a big brand name client that I did not want to miss out on. And 2 days before the shoot, I tested positive for COVID. And I was like, oh. I'm so lucky though that I have a solid crew. And I sent 2 guys up to Boston, and I invested in a teleprompter. And I gave them my iPad, and I'm like, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come through Zoom, and the person's going to look at the camera, but they're just going to see me on a Zoom call. And by that point, we were starting to get so familiar with Zoom calls. What happened was crazy. They looked at the camera, and they were comfortable looking directly at the camera, like I'm looking at you. And I'm like, how are they even more comfortable than just looking at me in the room? And it worked so well that it stuck. Now all of our interviews I come in on Zoom, even if I'm in the next room. And most of the time I'm in the next room, coming in on Zoom, and I have them look directly at the camera, which is me on a Zoom call. And then there's another camera off to the side for a tight close-up for emotion or whatever. But that changed our whole process. So it was tough, a couple pivots, some virtual events, innovation. was all born out of that. And we survived, and as far as our recession goes now, maybe we will feel it, but business is great for me. It's just about to start to be booming,
That's it.
So,
that's it. Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome.
So
That's a
we're
great
good.
story. I mean, even Wishup really picked up during the pandemic. It worked really well for us because everything went virtual. So when was the time? Like, when did you decide to hire a virtual assistant? Was it like after the pandemic or during the pandemic?
So I think we invested in an office space like 2019. And we were kind of growing and expanding. We had a few temporary people in there. And then the work kind of dried up, but not really because of the pandemic, just because of being an entrepreneur and being up and down, like with sales.
Yeah.
Like we're like, oh no, we got to sell, and we sell. And then we're executing, and we forgot that we should keep selling, right? And then it was like, I had one, because a lot of freelancers struggle with this too. It's like, oh, I'm so busy, don't talk to me. Or, does anybody love me? Like, those are the two extremes that you go through. And I think for me, that was it. After the end of 2019, we had this office space. Nobody was in it. My son was born January 5th, 2020. And nobody was in the office for like 6-8 months. And then when I came back, it was just me, like once a week in there. I was like, is this space still worth it? But at that point, we had gone through enough boom and bust cycles that I was like, that's it, I'm done. And I realized where I was lacking was follow-ups, generating leads and follow-ups. And I did not realize that virtual assistants would be able to generate leads for you. And that was quite revolutionary to me, that they could scour LinkedIn if you gave them a target audience and come up with a list of people way more than you'd be able to call in a day. Like Sid still adds to that list every day. I'm like, bro, stop. Like, there's too many people. He's got like 300 per sheet and like 4 or 5 sheets. And I'm like, okay,
wow,
slow down. So every day, like if there's no work, his default is to go and find more of the target audience. So that was revolutionary to me. But then also scheduling the call for me. And I'm like, he's in my LinkedIn. So when I get somebody to the point where they're like, yeah, that'd be great, have a call. Awesome. What's a good, these days work for me. What's a good email address for you? I have somebody from my team send it up. And then, Sid's in there, he takes over as me, and he's like, we've got Tuesday between 3 and 4 Eastern. And he'll send the invite and set it up so it reminds both of us, and then we'll get on. And I say, okay, we have to take notes. I go in HubSpot and take notes. So he'll create the profile for me with a link to their profile in LinkedIn, and then start filling out that profile for me, that client prospect profile. And then I'll take notes, or I'll record the call and then have him take some shorthand notes from the recording. And everything just goes into a process now. And he helps me with the follow-ups. And that was key for me, like having a sales assistant. But then also when prospects turn into customers, it was another bottleneck for me. I was like, I've got 3 people who want contracts. I can't even write them up right now. So I trained him how to write our SOWs, and the key was making them very, very boilerplate. So there's a few things that changed, like the dates and the amounts and the due dates of payments and stuff, but they're all in like double bold. So Sid can go through and replace the double bold based off of the formula we've created. So like if you want to book a shoot tomorrow, it takes 3 weeks to get everybody together for a pre-production call, then another 3 weeks to find the person you're going to interview, then another 3 weeks for production. So like all of that was built into a formula that Sid's able to follow. And we even have an Excel sheet. So like if their production date is this day, their deliverable date is going to be this day, and fills out the contract based on that. So there are a couple of things that happened simultaneously, but one was bringing on a contractor to help with our process. And once we did that, a lot of the stuff I passed off to my VA became a lot easier. Like, hey, we need an SOW, this amount, this start date. Go. And like that could be a voice note, right? And all of a sudden I have a draft in 30 minutes in my Slack of the contract that I can send. There's a few tweaks, right? But voice notes. And then I send those out. It's, okay, Jason, they signed the SOW. You know what to do next. And he does the invoicing where the line item is for that package, right? And asks them for their billing address and stuff and fills that out in QuickBooks and then sends that off to them. And then they'll be like, hey, this guy hasn't paid yet. You want me to ping him with the reminder? And I was like, yes, okay, let's take the part where you say you're going to break their kneecaps out, Sid. And then he's always nice.
Jason, you've given me so many new ideas. I didn't know you could use a virtual assistant for so many different tasks as well.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
We come up with new stuff all the time.
That's amazing, man. I mean, you've literally automated your whole business. Like, I mean, I can just see the benefit for you as well from a point of view of a busy entrepreneur, because these are the tasks that would usually otherwise slow you down.
Yeah.
Imagine if you would have to do all these tasks, or your partner would have to do these tasks. But yeah, that's amazing. I think we can use this as a case study for Wishup as well.
I'll tell you two more things, kind of weird. One really weird thing I have him doing now is our LinkedIn posts. I have a copywriter write those posts every day, and he interviews me weekly, and then he writes the post for the week out in a format that people will understand. I read something on LinkedIn where they said ascending text and descending text really works to capture the eye. So like maybe one word here, 2 words here, 3 words here, 4. So like really draws you in to read. So I'm like, Sid, you want to take a stab at this? So now he's creating this word art for me on LinkedIn.
Oh,
that's
beautiful.
drawing people's eye where you want it to go, right? And the other thing was when I first started my business in 2007, I did a lot of it on personal credit, and that destroyed my personal credit. My business destroyed my personal credit. Sid has been helping me with just the credit cleanup. And this is like outside of the scope of work, but just something like, yeah, whatever you need, man. Like you treat me like business, part of the business. I'm going to treat you like. So even just down to the tips of like, we need to call this creditor or send them a letter, and we need to talk to this person too, because it's, as when we're looking, my wife and I are looking for a house, like that's something that we need to clean up. But he's like, you know what? I have this secret skill. I used to work for a collection company. They are the devil. Don't work for them. But, I don't know if you want to cut that out, but he's said, here are some tips that I've learned. So he's been helping me, and like getting us set up on Experian and 3 credit card companies to do that. And I was able to justify that as a business expense using some of his time for that, because the business is the one who used my personal credit and like brought it down.
Got you there.
Yeah. So I've been able to get it way back up since, but there's just a few things, a few items like letters, contact stuff, people we have to contact to finish cleaning it up. But like that was a daunting task for me that had been sitting there idle for years. And even I found that even if the VA isn't or wasn't an expert like Sid is in this area, like to have somebody tasked with that and to hold you accountable for what they need. Yeah, that's huge. Sometimes you just need that push, that accountability.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all need a VA now in our lives.
I got 2.
Oh, you got 2 from Wishup?
Yeah.
Who's the other one?
Tell you about the other one? I can't tell you about the other one. He's my secret VA.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know about the other one.
The other one's Devish.
Devish, okay.
He specializes in SEO, ad spend, and basically our markets. So he's been holding my feet to the fire about getting him new blogs that
content marketing
and
SEO
have our
keywords.
Yeah, he's been researching keywords, our keywords, but then changed them to the trending keywords, what's hot.
Yeah.
And I noticed that those get updated every month. He suggested that I take my LinkedIn posts and post them to our Google profile, and I was like, that's weird. And then he explained it that like it's good for Google to see activity on your profile. So like if you look us up, Beard and Bowler, you'll see like all of my LinkedIn posts there, and there's activity legit 5 days a week on Google.
That's my business you're talking about? Google My Business?
Yeah, Google My Business.
Yeah.
It's photos, we've got videos. So our rankings have gone up on Google and SEO. And if I can get it together, I'm looking at like a second copywriter now to help keep up with the demands that he has for me. But again, it's the accountability to just like, I need those blogs. Let's keep writing. Let's keep doing stuff. Right now, we just launched a YouTube Shorts campaign yesterday because apparently that's pretty hot. And the beauty of Shorts is they're like Instagram stories, but they live there. And if you tag them properly, good SEO for the second most popular search engine in the world. So now he's tagging them up before we post them on YouTube and handling that for us. So and even the closed captioning he's helping us out with. So yeah, that's my secret weapon right there, Davish.
That's amazing. Yeah, I've seen your LinkedIn game and it's really like a notch above all. So yeah, I've been taking a few tips from your LinkedIn game.
Thanks. Biggest tip, don't try and do it yourself. Hire an expert to help. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we've been behind Nilesh to hire a copywriter as well. So I'm going to show him this podcast and I'm going to tell him, Nilesh, we need a copywriter right now.
And it's not even just to write random stuff. Like all the stuff is people are like, whoa, what happened? Like it's really, I don't know how you said it, but like it was, so it is all my words. It is just put the same way like we do for nonprofits. Exact same thing. But we don't do that with short form social media posts. Like we needed an expert. So like it's their story. But instead of 45 minutes of raw footage, you're seeing the 3 minutes of select in the right order that's going to help you understand better their story. Yeah. So my call today with the copywriter is going to be like 30 minutes and he'll have a couple of questions and I'll ramble on like I'm doing now about business, life, and the other. And he takes that part and puts it in the right order where people in a consumable format, with emojis, proper spaces and breaks. So people can consume that when they're doing the scroll feed and just kind of skimming your post, right? Yeah. And then he's like, get a selfie. Like, I'm like, a selfie? He's like, yep. Still pictures are working best right now on LinkedIn.
Yeah, so on LinkedIn, they are.
That's what it is. But I'm like, if I didn't have that accountability of him interviewing me weekly, it just wouldn't get done. Like, so it's on the calendar. He interviews me weekly, and then Mondays we set up a time to go over the posts. And there's a few technical things that I adjust, probably because I didn't answer him well in the first question. But like, that's the process. So yeah, knowing all that goes into creating a post, I'm like, I don't know why I ever thought I could do this myself.
Awesome.
And stand out still, you know?
It looks easy, yeah. I mean, from the offset, it does look like a small task, like doesn't require much, but there's actually a science that goes into it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Down to the formatting, I found out.
So what's your take, Jason, on remote work? Like you already have 2 VAs. I think your copywriter also is virtual, right? Remote. Yeah. So would you consider hiring or maybe making your whole company, and let's say Beard and Bowler goes to 10 million a year revenue company in the next year, would you consider hiring all of your employees virtual assistants, like remote work, or would you still stick to the current format of having them in-house?
So I only have 2 guys that are in-house and at the office. I'm not even at the office, but they're at the office right now. And there's nothing quite like that in-person experience and collaboration. And the key is I don't force them to be there because I know this topic is hot. And like one of my posts got featured on LinkedIn News and it had these random people like, you're everything that's wrong with America. And I'm like, bro, I don't force them to go to the office. They like going to the office because it's like less distracting than living with their roommates or their family. Like they like that focused time. And the culture we've built, it's like 2-3 o'clock. It's like, all right, guys, screening time. We all gather around one editor's computer and like, yeah, let's watch this and offer suggestions. So those are exciting times. Like we'll get lunch together. Yeah. But more than 50% of our workforce is remote right now. Even our business development guy we hired, he's in Mississippi now, from New Jersey, but in Mississippi. And yesterday I was like, I gotta go. Kwame insisted on getting some Jamaican food today, some Caribbean food today, so I gotta go eat. And he's like, oh man, I'm so jealous. I'm like, don't forget, we're working towards getting you here. But yeah, I think there's a good mix to have. Like some people should be remote, and some people should be in person, especially when it's something highly technical like video editing. And video editing the way that we do it, which is 2 or 3 notches above the standard. not saying that to brag, but like we have I hold myself to that high standard. So, yeah, just to stand out. So I think some people should be in person, but even that team is just like, hey, I'm going to need a work from home day today. And I'm like, dude, I understand. I'm here with my 3-year-old screaming right now. So like you want 2 or 3 days, you work from home 2 or 3 days. And I think it's important to have that flexibility. And then seeing what the team wants. Like they could work from home 5 days a week, right? But they like to be in the office. But having that flexibility, I think, is huge.
Absolutely. Well, Jason, this was an amazing podcast. I got to learn a lot, and I had fun having this podcast with you.
Yeah, it's a good time.
I hope you enjoyed it as well. So before you leave, Jason, I'd just like to ask you, how was your experience, or how has your experience been so far working with Wishup, like the entity as a whole?
It's been solid. Like there's been no complaints. Like I've had a great experience. Like I saw that Instagram ad and I haven't looked back since. And just the compliments that I get. My copywriter, my LinkedIn copywriter, like he's based in the UK, and he's like, mate, Sid is so amazing. I don't know where you found it. This guy does everything. I need and then my cinematographers, because now he's helping to coordinate with shoots and it's got everybody on the calendar. So because there's 6 people that come and some of them are freelancers, right? So he has a calendar for each to see when they're available, and then he'll just automatically pass that on to the client, our availability, right? And a cinematographer jokes like, I can't wait for that day where we get to travel to India and have a shoot there. We get to meet Sid. And we're going to arrive at the airport. There's going to be like 6 dudes. And we're going to be like, hey, which one of you is Sid? And they're going to be like, we are all Sid. Because I told Sid
we do have quite a few Sids out here.
It's like, just because it feels like he does the work of 10 men sometimes. Yeah, it's been a huge help. And like, he's involved in almost every aspect of the business now, and like has built up that trust. So like there are certain things that just down to payroll, like he runs payroll for us, right? And he gathers the hours, and if people don't have their hours in on time, like he'll ping them and be like, he'll gather the invoices, like how the invoices go to him. So a lot of things would fall apart if he wasn't here. So it's been integral. Now it's an integral part that I don't know if we can do without in the company. So
that's amazing, Jason. Yeah, that's what we strive for. That was the mission of Nilesh and Vivek when they started off Wishup, to not only provide good quality lifestyle for the Indian virtual assistants, but also to make life easier for entrepreneurs all across the world. Yeah. So these kind of reviews really help us affirm that we are doing a good job.
Yeah, I love this mission. And I think he should speak on that more too, when he talks about how most people would have to move to the city to get a job, a decent job. And now they could stay in their village, and they could, that pay just trickles down to their guy. Apparently everybody in India has a guy. So I'm like, I got to step my game up. But like, trickles down to everybody in the household, right? In the village itself. So what they've created is, what you guys have created is pretty awe-inspiring, I think, too, to that. So, I know only thing I would say is like, don't limit it. I know in the beginning, they were saying like, what's the scope of work for them? And I'm like, it's this. And that has evolved so much as I've just like passed off, like, but can you do this? But can you do this? Can you do this? Even if he can't, he'd be like, I will try, Jason. Like, it's just like that That's attitude. It. Like he will try. So like, the scope has gone from like here, what I originally thought, to here. So, feel free to, I would just tell people to feel free to experiment and see how much you can give to them. And let you know if their bandwidth is too much. But
Awesome, Jason. Thanks so much for your kind words and for the amazing interview once again. And I wish you all the best for future, and hopefully you grow to a $100 million revenue company and you outsource all your virtual assistants from Wishup.
Nice. I could use another one soon, I think. But we'll see.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, Jason, for your time. And speak soon.
All right. Take care.